In an interview with ABC's Diane Sawyer tonight, President Obama talked about his very strange encounter with Arizona Governor Jan Brewer yesterday.
What I've discovered is that I think it's always good publicity for a Republican if they're in an argument with me. But this was really not a big deal.
Governor Ed Rendell, you've greeted a lot of presidents coming down the stairs in Pennsylvania. I've never seen anything like it. And let me just say, I, for one, would have loved to see 50 governors do that to Richard Nixon day in and day out if they got the chance. But we have never seen it. How did that happen?
Well, it's wrong. It's wrong in two ways, Lawrence. Number one, it's just impolite. And it's the President of the United States. They invite you to come and greet the president. I did it as mayor and I did it as governor. And if you accept the invitation, you don't have to accept the invitation.
Right.
If
you don't have to go.
You don't have to go. If you're there, you treat the president with respect. You don't point a finger in his face. If you've got something to talk to the president about and you're angry about, do it inside. But number one, you don't do that in public and disrespect the president. And number two, you don't tug on Superman's cape. Every governor's got to know that a sitting president may be of enormous value to the residents of their state. If there's a disaster and you want every county in the state put into the federal disaster declaration, you better have a decent relationship with that president, at least a relationship that's a friendly relationship, if not politically allies. So it's dumb and it's disrespectful.
Melissa, we keep showing that dramatic still photograph, but I watched the entire video today, which is kind of rough. It goes over the roof of the car, of how long the president talked to Jan Brewer there. And it was longer than I have ever seen a president stop for a courtesy handshake with a visiting governor. It was a very, and he wasn't talking most of the time. She was doing most of the talking. Melissa, what did you see in that episode?
Well, you know, the most charitable reading of it is here are two public officials arguing about a book, which could be actually a really, exciting sort of outcome. Yeah. So that's my charitable read. But the fact is, when I see that still, I cannot help but to be reminded of the still photograph that was captured in 1957 in Little Rock, Arkansas, of the young woman Hazel screaming at a young Elizabeth Eckford on her way trying to get into Little Rock High School, a Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas. And the reason I bring up that image is because what we've come to know about Hazel in the years later is that as a young woman, Hazel, the young woman who was screaming at Elizabeth Eckford, was not herself sort of particularly, full of racial animus or anything like that, but she was caught up in this moment of racial anxiety, of making this point against these people who were coming in and trying to force their way into the school, and she sort of enjoyed the show of being able to yell at Elizabeth Eckford in this moment. But that image captured all of the ugliness, all of the nastiness of the larger political milieu, and I feel like this picture does as well.
Melissa Harris Perry and former Governor Ed Rendell of Pennsylvania, thank you both very much for joining me tonight.
Our pleasure.